One of the last tips I can give you for learning to cook while trying to lose weight is probably the most important, and you can apply it to anything in life. Do not. Welcome back to Former Fat Guy Fitness. I'm Tyler, your former fat guy. And today, to continue the Weight Loss 101 series, I'm going to be sharing some basic cooking tips and substitutions that you can make in the kitchen so you can enjoy your favorite foods and still lose weight. While I will still share the recipes that I eat and enjoy on the channel so you can have some ideas for yourself, I want to give you guys the basic tools needed so you can play around with meals and recipes on your own so you can enjoy your weight loss foods as much as I have. And while you would think I'd be filming this in the kitchen, it's just easier for workflow to do the main filming here at the desk and add in my good friend in B-roll, Cooking Headless Tyler. Wave to the people, Tyler. And much like anything else on this channel, I am not a professional cook. I am just some dumb guy who has learned enough things in the kitchen to stick to my goals and not want to shoot myself from a super strict or boring ass diet. So I'll start by going over the basic substitutions I make while cooking and playing around with recipes, then I'll go into some basic cooking techniques for your proteins, and then I'll go over some items that you can easily make yourself instead of buying to save yourself some money. And as always, I'll put timestamps in the description below if you want to jump around or watch a specific part of the video. So if you learned something new or you enjoy what you learn in this video, consider hitting the subscribe button, hit the like button for the algorithm, and let's get started. For those of you new to the channel, my diet, and the one I would recommend to most people, revolves around two magic numbers: calories and protein. Because of this, the major rule that I follow when making my meals throughout the day or playing around with new recipes is what I call the 10-to-1 rule. This is where for every 10 calories I eat, I need to get 1 gram of protein. And this is especially important when I'm cutting weight, as it helps me keep my calories low and my protein high, so I burn fat and not muscle. However, when I'm bulking like I am now, I have a lot more calories to play around with, so I can be more flexible on that diet, and I don't need to increase my daily protein goal to 280, as that's definitely overkill. So while every meal you cook doesn't need to be in that 10-to-1 rule, it's just a good general principle to follow to help you hit your daily goals and keep you feeling full throughout the day. Now, achieving this 10-to-1 ratio is actually pretty easy for most meals and recipes, and there's two ways you can do that. Either A, increase the overall protein of the meal, or B, decrease the calories in the meal by reducing the fat or the carbohydrate content. The first thing I would always ask myself though is, where is the protein in this meal, or how do I add protein to this meal? If you're making a meal or a dish and you find it's got very little protein or it's not quite to that 10-to-1 ratio, then simply add foods or ingredients that are really protein dense, like lean meats, egg whites, or Greek yogurt. If you're unsure if an ingredient is protein dense or not, simply look at the nutrition label and divide the calories per serving by protein per serving. If the number you get is 10 or below, then it will fall in that ratio. Along with bumping up the proteins in every dish and meal that you have, another way to improve your protein to calorie ratio is whenever you go to make a meal, ask yourself, where can I make a basic change to lower the calories in this dish? So one of the first things that I'll look to switch out would be ingredients that help me lower the fat content. My go-to examples for basic switches that I'll make would be like switching regular butter to a light butter. Just by doing this, you're cutting your calories in half with that one ingredient. Switching from normal mayo to light mayo will do even better by cutting the calories to 1/3 of normal mayo. Or if you're willing to sacrifice some of the flavor, you can still get the creamy texture of mayo with added protein by replacing it with Greek yogurt. I'll actually do the same if a recipe calls for sour cream as well. While eggs are my go-to source of fat, you can really reduce the calories in a lot of dishes by switching those out for egg whites. Not only does it reduce the fat and calorie content of that dish, but it will really increase the protein content as well. Trading out things like fat full milk, 2% reduced milk, or creams for things like almond milk, fat-free Fairlife, or low-fat buttermilk can not only lower calories by a lot, but also add more protein to sauces and desserts. While I do love my cheeses, switching to a reduced fat cheese will not only save you on calories, but it will also increase your calorie to protein ratio. Just don't use fat-free cheese. Not because it's bad for you or anything, but because, well, it tastes like dog. I also make sure to trade out really fatty cuts of meat like shoulders, roasts, and thighs for leaner cuts like sirloins and chicken breasts. And finally, a lot of foods get fried in oils and butters, and those calories add up really quickly. I mean, 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories, and look at this. This is 1 tablespoon of oil. Do you really think you're only using 1 tablespoon of oil when you're frying things? So instead of frying things in oil, I'll just use an air fryer and a non-calorie cooking spray and hit it with a light spray of that. While I know it's not the same, and I know there's a small amount of calories in a cooking spray, it's nowhere near close to frying things in a vat of oil. So how do we put all this together to make your favorite meals healthy and higher in protein? Well, let's look at 2 examples. First, let's say you're craving some mashed potatoes. And trust me, I get that. The fatty in me, he loves him some taters. But if you're going to just make regular mashed potatoes, odds are you're going to put an entire stick of regular butter in the batch. You're going to make it with whole fat milk. And then you're looking at potatoes, butter, and milk. So you've got yourself a dish that has almost no protein, a ton of fat, and those evil, evil carbs. However, I don't demonize carbs, I just add protein to it. Using my loaded potato casserole as the example here, simply add in some lean meats such as ham, switch out the whole fat milk for fat-free Fairlife, trade your regular butter for a light butter, and add in some reduced fat cheese and boom, you've got yourself a high protein dish, lower on calories, so you can still enjoy a favorite food and stay within your goals. For another example of packing protein into a favorite dish of mine, let's say you wanted to enjoy yourself a nice creamy Alfredo pasta. Well, if you use regular pasta and a store-bought sauce and add a bunch of cheese, you're looking at a meal that has a ton of fat, a ton of calories, and not much protein. So, make some basic changes and up the protein in it. First, instead of regular pasta, I'll use chickpea pasta. Instead of a store-bought sauce, I'll make a homemade sauce using low-fat buttermilk. And then instead of just adding a bunch of cheese into the pasta, I'll add a bunch of lean meats, such as chicken breast or shrimp, and that will really pump up the protein in the dish. And just like that, you have a favorite meal again that's high in protein and low in calorie. And yes, I do have a chicken Alfredo recipe up on the channel if you need to learn how to make a homemade Alfredo sauce, so check that out if you'd like. In the name of trying to stick to the 10-to-1 rule from before, you'll notice a theme of this section, going for reduced fat or fat-free ingredients. Well, fat is insanely important. See my Nutrition 101 video for more info on that. I try to have meals and snacks specifically designed to get my fat in. For example, for breakfast or early in the day, I'll usually have eggs and avocado to get my healthy fats in, and then later on in the day, I'll finish off my fat with some sugar-free or homemade chocolate. Yes, I said homemade chocolate. We'll get to that in a little bit. But for the majority of my other meals, I try to keep fat low so I can have high volume, low calorie meals so I can enjoy my favorite foods and get the feeling that I grew up loving as a former fatty. Feeling full. With that being said though, one major trade-off you're going to have to keep in mind as you reduce fats in the meals that you cook is the taste. Much like I said in my Nutrition 101 video, fat plays a major role in the taste of your foods because of its ability to dissolve and spread flavors through your taste buds. So yes, you are going to be trading off some taste when you trade off on the fats. To compensate for this, you need to up your arsenal, specifically your arsenal of seasonings. My go-to seasonings that I use are things like peppers, salts, onions, and garlic powders. For some spice, I'd like to add some ancho chili pepper or paprika, but genuinely, I would stock up on as many seasonings as you can so you can up the flavor profile for your meats as you cook them. This will help compensate for your lack of fat, and yes, I know seasonings do have a small amount of calories, but I never once counted the calories from peppers. Remember the channel rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Another way to help with the flavor of the meats that you cook while not using fat is to incorporate marinades or dry brining. Marinating is something that I need to get better at because it usually requires a day or two of planning, so you can get your marinade together and let your meat soak in it for as long as possible. So I'm busy enough that I usually just stick with what's called the dry brine. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll pull my meat out. Giggity giggity, giggity good. I'll let it thaw out, and once it thaws, I'll pat it down dry with some paper towels on both sides. Then I'll set it out on a plate, and I'll hit it with some salt on both sides. Then I put it in the fridge and let it sit in there until about an hour before I'm ready to cook it. Then I'll pull it out, and I'll get ready to sear it. You mainly do the dry brining so the liquids in the meat will get drawn out and dissolve that salt. Then the salt that's dissolved will get sucked back into the meat through diffusion, and this will help your meat retain more flavor and moisture as you cook it. Along the same lines of having a moist piece of meat, I'm really channeling my inner Will Tennyson here. Anyway, don't be the guy who just boils your chicken. While there's plenty of ways you can cook your meat, to retain the moisture, you need to apply a technique called searing your meat. For those of you who don't know, this is where you cook your proteins at a really high temperature when you first lay it in the pan or on a barbecue. You want to make sure you hear the sizzle of the meat when you drop it down. There's two reasons for this. The first one is if you get all the exteriors of a protein cooked as fast as you can, it will keep all the juices locked inside that piece of meat. Second, it will create the exterior crust on the piece of meat that you normally get when you fry it in oils or butters. But since our goal is to try to lose weight, or at least keep the calories from getting out of hand, that's why we focus on the sear of the meat instead of using oils and butters. Once you have all sides of your protein seared up to where basically the exterior skin of everything is cooked, then you can take it to a lower temperature or do what I do and cook it in the oven in a cast iron pan the rest of the way, and you can slowly rise the temperature up to eating temperature. This will once again help retain its juices so you have a quality piece of meat. Finally, to finish your steak, once it gets within 5 degrees of the finished temperature you want it to be at, pull it out, cover it, and let it rest for 5 minutes. You do this because you want to keep all those juices in the meat locked in when you go to cut it open. If you were to just pull it out of your oven, cut it open right away, and try to eat it, all the juices in your meat would release. Yes, I think that's enough innuendo for one section. Let's move on. One skill you want to pick up in the kitchen if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to eat healthier would be learning to make some frequently used items yourself instead of having to go buy them all the time. One thing I hear people say all the time is, "It's too expensive to eat healthy." Well, it is if you just buy everything. A major theme in life is the concept of time and money, though. So if you invest just a little bit of time learning to make some of these things, you can avoid paying $6 for a single quart of yogurt, or $5 for a single bottle of G. Hughes sugar-free ketchup, $5 for a bottle of low-calorie barbecue sauce, or $5 for a tiny bag of Bake Believe sugar-free chocolate chips. I have recipes for all of these up on the channel, except for the chocolate chips. I'm still working on that one. I'm trying to get more fiber in it and get some carbs taken out of it, but I should have that one up soon. Another thing I would encourage is investing in some basic equipment to make things homemade and to make your cooking experience a little bit easier. While I did say a major theme of life is time and money, you can invest a little bit of money up front to save you both money and time in the long run. For example, my favorite tool in the kitchen is my Ninja Creamy. I'll have 2 to 3 pints of fruit sorbet every single day, and each sorbet only costs me $1 or less to make. I can also make protein ice cream at under 200 calories a pint, and they also only cost about $1 to make. Compare that to a pint of Halo Top ice cream at around $6 a pint. I can have a pint of ice cream every single night, still lose weight, and save about $150 a month. Or, much like I described in my homemade yogurt video, 1 quart of Fage fat-free Greek yogurt costs $6. However, I can go to Costco and get a $2 fat-free gallon of milk and turn it into 2 quarts of yogurt with my Instapot. Considering I make about 10 batches of this a month, yeah, I know I go through a lot of yogurt, I save about $100 a month on Greek yogurt costs. So I'll link some of my go-to kitchen gear down below that I've invested in. If you check it out through that link, it does help the channel out at no extra cost to you. Along with making basic and frequently used items like yogurt, ice cream, and ketchups yourself, think about your favorite foods that you eat when you go out, and then take the tips from earlier in this video to try and recreate them. Like Taco Bell as much as I do? Take some lean ground beef, your favorite seasonings, cover it in a little bit of water, and cook it into mush. Boom, Taco Bell meat. Like fried chicken? Take a chicken breast, do a basic fried chicken breading on it, pop it in an air fryer, hit it with a non-calorie cooking spray, and boom, healthy fried chicken. And if you take the time and money comparison from before, consider the wait time at restaurants and fast food nowadays, not to mention the inflated prices. Do you really think you can go out and eat all the time and eat cheaper and faster? I mean, there's plenty of YouTube videos out there putting that theory to the test and showing you can eat cheaper, faster, and healthier if you just put a little bit of effort in at home. One of the last tips I can give you for learning to cook while trying to lose weight is probably the most important, and you can apply it to anything in life. Do not be afraid to fail, because you will. I can't tell you how many times I made a dish, took a bite, and said, "Yeah, wow, damn, not doing that again." But it's those failures that help us improve and grow, because if you don't fail, you don't know where you went wrong. Just like me being some dumb guy making health and fitness videos. Yeah, I know my stuff's not the best. I know there's a lot I can improve on, and I'm usually the first person to notice when and where I fail. But it's those failures that help me improve and show me where I need to work on my craft still. So get your ass in the kitchen, throw some pans around, try to make your favorite dishes a little bit more healthy. If you learned anything new in this video or you found something helpful, hit the like button. If there's anything with cooking you want me to go over, because there's plenty I could have gone over, let me know in the comments. Or if you want to see more recipes, general fitness advice, or just want to help the channel out, hit the subscribe button, as it really does help out. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching.